All right, let's dive into Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is a book that really shook up the world of personal finance. And here's why. It basically argues that almost everything we're taught about money isn't just a little off, it's actually designed to keep us stuck. So let's break down its most powerful lessons. So let me just start with a big, bold question for you. What if that classic advice, go to school, get a good, safe job, save your money, what if that whole path is actually a trap? That's the big, kind of shocking idea at the heart of this whole book.
So the whole story is framed by the author's pretty unique childhood. He basically had two dads giving him advice. First, you got his actual dad, a super educated guy, worked for the government, and he calls him his poor dad. And then there was his best friend's dad. This guy was an entrepreneur who never even finished the 8th grade, and he's the rich dad.
So you've got these two men, right? And they offered completely different, totally opposing views on money, on work, on life. And this was huge for the author because he got to see both sides of the coin and then choose which path he wanted to follow. And this, right here, just nails the core difference between them. Poor Dad's advice is all about becoming a great employee. Rich Dad's advice, it's about becoming a business owner. See the difference? One path has you working for money, while the other has you owning the whole system that makes the money.
I mean, their core beliefs about money were just polar opposites. For Poor Dad, money was this sketchy thing, something to be careful of, maybe even the source of corruption. But Rich Dad? He saw it completely differently. For him, the lack of money was the real problem, the thing that caused suffering. Money was just a tool that could create freedom if you knew how to use it.
Okay, so what happens when you follow that standard advice from Poor Dad? Well, according to the book, you end up getting stuck in something he calls the rat race.
And here's the kicker. The book says this trap isn't really about the numbers. It's all in your head. It's driven by two emotions we all feel. First, there's the fear of being broke, of not having enough money. That's what gets you out of bed and to work. And then, the second you get that paycheck, greed, or, just desire, kicks in, and you start dreaming about all the cool stuff you can buy.
And that back and forth, that push and pull between fear and greed, that's what creates the rat race. You get up, you go to work to make money to pay the bills, but then getting more money just leads to spending more money, which brings that fear right back. It's like you're a hamster on a wheel. You're running your heart out, but you're not actually going anywhere.
So, how in the world do you get off the wheel? Well, Rich Dad had an answer. And it all boils down to one simple, ridiculously powerful rule that just changes the whole game. Honestly, this is the heart of the entire book.
Okay, first part of the rule, you have to know what an asset is. And Rich Dad's definition is just beautifully simple. An asset, it puts money in your pocket. Period.
And a liability? You guessed it. It's the exact opposite. It's anything that takes money out of your pocket. That's literally it. It's not complicated. All that matters is which way the cash is flowing.
And this is where it all comes together. Your wealth isn't decided by how big your paycheck is, it's decided by what you buy with that paycheck. The rich spend their time and money buying assets, things that generate more money. The poor and middle class, they spend their money on liabilities. And here's the tricky part. They often think they're buying assets, like their house or their car.
Okay, so this one little distinction, it completely changes how money moves through your life. Let's actually take a look at what these cash flow patterns look like for different people.
Yeah, this chart right here tells you pretty much everything you need to know. Look at the poor and middle class. Income comes in from a job, and whoosh, it goes right back out to cover expenses and liabilities. But now look at the rich. See where their income comes from? It's flowing from that asset column. They use their money to buy things that make more money. Bottom line, their money is working for them, not the other way around.
Okay, but you might be thinking, that's great, but how do I build an asset column if I have zero money to start with? Well, when the author was just a kid, he and his friend Mike had that exact same problem, and how they solved it became Rich Dad's very first practical lesson.
So, they had no cash, right? They had to get creative. They spotted an opportunity. A local store was just throwing away old comic books. So they grabbed them, set up a little library in a basement, and started charging the neighborhood kids 10 cents to come in and read as much as they wanted. Just like that, they had created a tiny business, an asset, from nothing but a clever idea.
And that was it. That was the aha moment. Think about it. That little comic book library was making them money even when they weren't around. It was the perfect little example of an asset. For the first time, they had made money work for them.
So, all of these lessons, they all lead up to Rich Dad's biggest piece of advice, a phrase he would say over and over again: mind your own business.
But what does that actually mean, mind your own business? Well, here's the key distinction. Your profession, that's your job, what you do for a paycheck. But your business, that's your asset column. That's the stuff you own that makes you money. See, most people spend their entire lives minding their boss's business, not their own. So what's the game plan? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. First, you don't have to quit your job. No, keep your job. But, and this is the important part, you have to use the income from that job to start buying real assets. Things like real estate, stocks, maybe a small side business. Your whole focus should be on building up that asset column piece by piece until the money it generates is more than your expenses.
And this brings up another huge difference in how people behave with their money. When most people get a raise or a bonus, what's the first thing they do? They go buy a luxury, probably on credit. The rich? They do the exact opposite. They build up their assets first, and then they use the cash flow, the money their assets are making, to buy the luxuries. Their assets buy their luxuries for them. It's not coming from their own sweat and tears.
So let's end on a question that really hits home for a lot of people. Your house. For most of us, it's the biggest purchase we'll ever make. But, using Rich Dad's very simple rule, is it an asset or is it a liability? Does it put money into your pocket every month, or does it take money out? Just answering that one question could completely change how you see your financial future.